Hey football fans, in this video I'm looking at Utah quarterback Tyler Huntley and at the development that he's shown as a passer this season. This year, Huntley's stats are way up. He's improved his completion percentage from 64 to 74%, his touchdown to interception ratio is 11 to 1, and he's in the top 5 nationally in yards per attempt. What's really impressed me though is his understanding of the game and the versatility that this gives him against a variety of coverages. In this video, I'm going to focus on these issues in Huntley's performance against Washington, but if you want a more in-depth look at the offense as a whole from this game, then check out the links at the end of this video. Let's start the video with this play, where Huntley's going to work something called a 3-level flood concept against a single high zone coverage. In this game, Washington was obviously concerned about Utah's run and RPO game to Zach Moss, and so they played a lot of single high coverages like this. By playing with only one safety deep, they give themselves the ability to spin the other safety down into underneath coverage, and against this formation, that's going to let them keep all of their linebackers in the box to defend the run. On this particular play, the Huskies are running a zone coverage. Now, you might see this cornerback pressing up here at the top of the screen and think that this has to be man, but it's actually really common to press in zone, and as we run the play forward, we can see that the defender lined up over the slot receiver here is going to zone off to play the short outside zone instead of locking onto his receiver man-to-man. On this play, Utah's running something called a 3-level flood, and this concept's great for attacking zone coverages like this one. If we look to the outside of the coverage, we see that Washington has 2 defenders lined up either on or outside of the hash. The cornerback here is going to defend the deep sidelines by running with any deep route, and the defender inside of him on the hash is going to drop to play the short outside zone. Utah's then attacking these 2 defenders by running routes at 3 different levels. The outside wide receiver is going to be the top of the flood, and he's going to run straight down the sidelines. As we've already seen, that's going to draw the coverage of this cornerback and get him out of the picture. This slot receiver here is then going to be the second level in the flood, and he's going to run something called a sail and go, which breaks out toward the sidelines and then straight down the field. Finally, this receiver that's in motion is just going to run straight out to the flat to be the third level in the flood. These second 2 receivers are the key because with the cornerback out of the picture, they're creating a high-low stretch on the underneath defender here, and that's the guy that Huntley's going to read. If that guy runs with a sail and go, then the Huskies won't have any defender outside to pick up the flat, and so Huntley will throw the ball short to him. If that defender sits on the flat route, on the other hand, then Huntley's going to throw the sail and go behind him. On this play, that defender's trying to midpoint the 2 routes, but Huntley sees that this means that he won't be able to carry the deeper route, and so he's going to throw over that defender's head for a pretty easy 41-yard completion. To solve problems like this, Washington also played a lot of man coverage, and attacking this is going to require a different skill set from Huntley. Here's a good example on a 3rd and 12 from the 4th quarter. On this play, Utah's got a 3-receiver bunch to the left side of the formation, and we can see that Washington is again playing with a single high safety. When we watch the routes from these bunch receivers develop though, we see that their defenders aren't dropping to cover a zone like they did on the last play. Instead, they're locking onto their receivers and following them no matter where they go. So this defender's pressing the point man in the bunch, and he's going to run with him when he goes vertical. This defender's responsible for the outside wide receiver, and so he's going to run with him when he breaks off his route shallow into the inside. Finally, this third defender's responsible for the inside receiver, and he'll run with him as he works outside toward the sidelines. In a man coverage like this, you're not going to get the kind of 2-on-1 matchup that we saw in the last play, because every receiver has a defender dedicated to him. Against a man coverage like this, the quarterback instead has to figure out where his best matchup is, and that can come from a talent mismatch, or it can also come from a schematic mismatch, and it's up to the quarterback to understand how these 2 elements fit together. As I said, on this play, this defender is responsible for covering the inside wide receiver here. Now, Huntley knows what routes his guys are running, and so he knows that that receiver is going to be running outside and toward the sidelines. He also knows that that route will take his receiver through a lot of traffic because the point man in the bunch is running vertical and the outside receiver stopping short and breaking back inside. This tells him that it's going to be very hard for that defender to cover the outside vertical route, and so he knows that that's the route that he wants to target. As we run the play forward, we see that that defender looks a little hesitant. He tries to make contact with the receiver, but he doesn't impact the route at all, and the receiver just blows right past him. Huntley makes a good call to work this matchup, and as a result, he gets another pretty easy 41-yard completion. Let's close this out with one more play. This is a 2nd and 8 with less than a minute to go in the first half. Because there's not much time left, Washington actually isn't playing a single high coverage this time. Instead, they're playing with both safeties deep, and they're actually dropping 8 defenders into coverage with just a 3-man pass rush, giving them a very pass-oriented zone look. If you want to be a good quarterback, though, especially in the 2-minute drill, then you can't let this kind of thing stop you. In this look, Washington's dropping these 3 defenders into zone coverage to take away the middle of the field. Huntley will end up throwing to this outside wide receiver who's bending inside on a crossing route, but at first there's not going to be much room to get the ball there. To make things a little more difficult, on this play, Utah's right tackle is going to get beat pretty badly to the inside, and so Huntley's going to face some immediate pressure. Watch right here how he avoids that pressure while keeping his eyes downfield, and that's going to be the key here. This brings us to the last important detail. On this play, Zach Moss is running something called a check release. This means that he's looking up to these linebackers to see if any of them are blitzing, and if one of them does blitz, then Moss will stay in to block them. When they all drop into coverage, however, then Moss is free to release on his checkdown route, and this is critical because when he releases here, it's going to put a high-low stretch on this linebacker since he's got the wide receiver running a crossing route behind him and the running back running a checkdown route in front of him. On this play, as we've seen, Huntley's avoided pressure while keeping his eyes downfield, and so that lets him continue to work the concept and read this linebacker. As we run the play forward, Huntley sees him come up to defend Moss, and so he throws an absolute dart to pick up the 18-yard completion. What we're seeing here is that if we really want to measure Huntley's progress this season, we have to look beyond the stats. In this video, we've seen him work against 3 different coverages: a single high zone, a single high man, and a split safety 8-man zone. Each of these plays shows a different capability and a different kind of read, and this diversity makes Huntley very hard to defend. This is the area in which he's most improved in 2019. Alright, that's it for this video. I focused on Huntley here, but if you want a more in-depth look at the offense as a whole, then check out the links on the screen. Otherwise, I'll see you here next time, and go Utes!